Hello and welcome to my video overview of Orchard Regrown. Orchard Regrown is a reimagining of sorts of one of my earlier games, simply titled Orchard. It's a relaxing garden simulation with some elements of artificial intelligence as well. So I'll go ahead and hit play and we'll get right into it. Right, so I'm in the debug mode at the moment. I'm actually just going to mute the bird and music, which just gives you unlimited money. That's just for the purposes of demonstration. The actual build, you only start with like £50. First off, you have a toolbar down here with a number of tools. Selector will come more into play when you plant a flower. Path, you can make little roads in your garden, and this is for drones to use later, which will automatically tend to your garden. Water and spray raises the humidity of the soil and the air, and then the dryer lowers the humidity of both of those. Mulch increases the mulch or the humidity of a tile, and then scissors are used to harvest a plant. So we can go ahead and plant our first plant. We only start with the lavender unlocked, so all these are locked at the moment. So we'll go ahead, plant a lavender, and use the inspector just to check out what it needs. So right now it's saying mulch. It needs mulch, and there we go. Humidity, light levels are too low now. So how this works is soil and air humidity are used up as well as mulch over time as the plant grows. You can see we've grown 5% at the moment, and as well for air and soil humidity, they disperse. If a tile is saturated, it will pass on water to surrounding tiles, and as well a little bit will evaporate periodically. But I'll go ahead, I'm just going to unlock everything to make it quicker. So there we go, we're getting too dark now to grow anything, so I'll go ahead and build a lamp. Now what a lamp does is raises the light levels in adjacent tiles. So now you can see the light is fine, but we need higher air humidity. Now we're fully grown, you can see growth 100% and the flowers have sprouted. So I can go ahead and use the scissors, and I got a nice little £5 there. The lamp, I was saying, raises, well, you can actually see, raises ambient light in a 3x3 grid. Can be used to help highlight preferred plants thrive at more times. And yeah, you get some stats here, and then you can also demolish it, but I don't want to do that right now. And then the spray machine, I'll go ahead and actually build some of these here. So we have the spray machine, which sprays water in the 8 adjacent tiles. We have the watering can machine, which waters the soil in the adjacent tiles, and the mulch machine, which does the same for mulch. So were I now to plant, say, this Dame's rocket in the middle here, it's going to be kind of automatically cared for by the surrounding machines. So soil humidity, there you go, you can see it just watered it up, and it's already grown. Perfect. So now I can go ahead and harvest that. Another thing to notice is when I do plant, you get this little patch of dirt. This actually reflects the soil humidity, so if I go ahead and really water it here, you can see it gets dark brown, and if I go ahead and dry it out, it gets much lighter, like a bone white. And that's pretty much how all the flowers work. They all work very similarly, except when you get to bees, but I'll cover that later. Trees are also quite similar. You plant a tree, it takes a bit longer for a tree to grow, because obviously they're much larger, but when they do grow, rather than being harvested once, you can harvest their fruit multiple times. So the oak tree will grow apples, and a pine tree will grow pine cones. So what's this one got? This one is doing pretty good in everything. It just, as I said, it takes a long time to grow, relatively, about 25 seconds. So as well as being too low, things can be too high. The soil humidity, for example, for a plant can be too high. The light can be too high, especially for mushrooms. Mushrooms much prefer lower light levels, and so if the light is too high, the mushroom is not going to grow. But there we go, we've fully grown now, and when I come in with the scissors, I've only harvested the fruit, and that fruit will then regrow periodically as long as its conditions are all met. So you can see there you go, mulch is too low, light levels are too low. So again, this is a plant that would require higher light than a flower. So if I build 2 lamps, that's going to satiate its light needs. I can also rotate the island if I need to, just to see a nicer angle. Moving on, we also have these drones. Now these drones are very similar to the machines, except they're automated. So say I have a line of lavender here. Now I can build a path along these. Drones need paths to operate. And then come down to the drones and build a watering can drone and a spray drone. And they're going to just navigate along the path I've made and they'll water the flowers. There you go. So you can see now they're already complete all these. So I can go ahead and harvest all of them and maybe plant a few different types here. I quite like the daffodils. There you go. So even just with the residual water that's been left over in these spaces, because obviously a plant might not use all the water, these ones have fully grown, which is very useful. This one though, what's this need? So here we go. We have too high soil humidity here. So what happened just there is the soil humidity may have evaporated as well as dispersed. So when a tile becomes saturated, it disperses humidity into adjacent tiles, and then a percentage of that is also lost to evaporation. But as well, then we could have used the dryer if we wanted to. Obviously, the robots, the drones, they can only really do increasing humidity. They can't dry it out, and so were one to become overwatered, then that's something the player has to sort out themselves. But again, if I just plant up these, we're going to get a nice quick growth, because these tiles are being kept pretty well. So that covers really flowers and trees. Again, the pine tree is pretty similar to the oak tree, just requires different requirements. It prefers different humidity, different light levels, and it grows pine cones instead. Were the path to change halfway through, they would recalculate their route. It's quite hard to display knowingly, because they're going to be pretty quick to move. But if I plant this here and then there you go. There we go. So he this one, again, hard to demonstrate, but he would have originally have planned to take this shortest route, and then when I got rid of these tiles, he obviously changed to come up here. They also do have charge, and then they charge off solar energy, so they won't charge as quickly during the night as they would during the day, unless they're next to a tile. And so sometimes if they're not doing anything, it's because their batteries have depleted and they're just charging up. But it doesn't take too long normally. Mushrooms, again, these thrive better at night. So if I plant a few of these and come in with the inspector, we can see light levels are okay, even though they're actually not within range of a lamp, and it's nighttime. They require as well much higher humidity. That's how fungus would thrive in real life, and a lot of mulch as well, because fungus requires a lot of humidity. They really require a lot of water, and they use it up quite quickly as well. So it's best to have like a static machine, I find, next to them. But now you can see the light levels are too high. One way to solve this is actually to grow a tree next to them, which then creates shade in the surrounding spaces. So you can plant a tree, and then in the 8 spaces around that tree you can plant mushrooms, because flowers would normally not get enough light were they under a tree. So it suits quite well. It's quite efficient to have a tree in the middle surrounded by mushrooms. One other thing I haven't mentioned, because it hasn't really come up, is root space. Plants require a certain amount of root space to be planted, and then their roots will grow out as they grow as well. Normally for like mushrooms and flowers, they only just occupy the space they're on, so it's not super important. But for trees, their roots actually extend to the tiles around them as well. So were I to try and plant a flower here, it might not get enough root space. Oh no, it's grand. But were I to plant maybe a more demanding in terms of root space plant here, because this oak tree's roots kind of go in this little circle around it, they might not actually have enough root space to fully grow the plant. Finally then we have bees. So bees actually require a few things to demonstrate properly. They're going to need some flowers, so I'll go ahead, plant some flowers there and some flowers here, and then I'll come in the middle with these pollination sticks. Now what pollination sticks allow for is cross-pollination of flowers. Okay, so now what I've got is this space in the middle where I'm going to put a hive, and then either side I have some fully grown flowers. So I'll go ahead, I'll put down the beehive, and very slowly some bees should start coming out. There we go. And what they're going to do is they're going to visit the flowers. Each one is weighted by how attractive it is to bees, and then it picks a target at random. And each time it visits one, it's going to collect some of its pollen. Now, there you go, you can see it's crossed over these pollination sticks. And when it does that, if it's carrying enough pollen, it has a chance to cross-pollinate on these sticks and create a hybrid flower. And these use a genetic algorithm to split the preferences for soil humidity, air humidity between the last two visited, so either 2 daffodils, 2 dame's rockets, or one of each. And so you could get, it prefers the soil humidity that a dame's rocket would prefer with a mulch levels of what a daffodil prefers. It then can choose, randomly chooses to have the stem and the flower of one of these two, so it could combine them. You could have dame's rocket stem, but instead of these purple flowers you'd be getting the yellow heads of a daffodil. So let's go ahead and grow these. Oh no, there we go, look at that, that's a good one. So this here, this is an example of crossbreed, because you can see you've got the very thin stems of these dame's rockets and the nice yellow heads of a daffodil. And I think that's actually the only one that's crossbred in that manner. Yeah, it would seem like it. Again, that's just because I probably should have put one on each side, because otherwise they visited 2 dame's rockets, and then when they've crossed the pollination sticks, the only pollen they've had is dame's rockets. And so bees will complete a certain amount of journeys before then returning to the hive, and that's pretty much how the genetic algorithm works in this application. There are also jobs, I didn't focus too much on this, but you can see, for example, this one, the village mayor is, I spelled village wrong there, is holding a weekend festival and needs 25 flowers. So once I harvested 25 flowers, I would have got a small monetary reward. And there's a few of these jobs, but again, they're not really the focus. I wanted to give players something to do, whilst the focus of the actual game for me was the simulation and the AI. That pretty much concludes Orchard Regrown. What I didn't mention is it uses a shader to, if I build a lamp here, you can see it will slowly grow up. There we go, it slowly grows up. That's using a shader. The same for this outline. This is using a forward renderer asset to create a sobel edge, rather than using like an inverse hull method for outlines. It uses a sobel edge, which is using the depth. Oh gosh, the word escapes me right now. But it basically draws a black line wherever it detects a harsh change in depth in the scene, and that's why sometimes when this stone gets here, you can see a little bit the outline doesn't get drawn, because it's not harsh enough. The depth change isn't harsh enough to draw a black line. Yeah, that's been everything. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I can cut this down into a nice short video. All right.